Good morning, everybody. This is Hob, and we're just getting back into Space Engineers here. I recorded yesterday a tour of the base, and I didn't understand the settings on the streaming software that I was using, and ended up with a really crap-tastic recording. So I thought that I would come out and show you this again. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually start a brand new survival game to stream from, and just so that I can kind of start from scratch, and maybe hopefully we can all grow together. But I wanted to show you kind of what I had done here. So what I've got is I've got a base. It started out as just a small platform built from the dregs of the survival ship that you start with. Using that, I was able to build a nice platform with a reactor and a little bit of uranium, of course, and a cockpit, assembler, and one refinery. I've since expanded to 2 assemblers, 3 refineries, obviously a significant quantity of armoring. This is a mod that I like to use. It's heavy reinforced armor. It uses a boatload of iron plates, and I had just a massive surplus of iron at the time, and decided to waste it for no good reason. Ended up conveying everything up so that I would not have to manually unload the mining ship that I had built the first go around. My first mining ship would dock up here. I didn't actually have any of these walls. All I had was this. That block's the wrong color. All I had was this, oops, let's go this way, this connector connected up to the conveyor system, and we just docked directly up to that. I eventually mined enough materials to be able to build a solar panel array. It started out kind of small and incorrectly angled, so I tore it down and rebuilt it again and figured out the correct angle on the rotor to be able to point these at the sun correctly. And the way that I do that is I set the 0 at the bottom and then adjust to the rotor to 35 degrees at a very slow pace and just stop it right about there. And that puts it on the perfect angle to get you full sunlight on all of your solar panels. And then, of course, you can expand from there. The base itself expanded initially into a better miner, and I'll get to that part of the tour here in a little bit. We expanded back this way, mostly because I wanted to be able to conveyor up this extra reactor to directly be able to drop uranium into the reactors. So I ended up digging out some area around here, and I also needed to expand for the assemblers, and I needed to be able to have those actually touching each other to construct them. So I built this area out, mined some iron out from here, built down this way. This is actually a new addition, this part right here. I built down this way through another path previously, and then broke that off for the purposes of the hangar. Down here is where I've got my medical bay. This is a small medical bay. I think it's DK that does this. And then, of course, we've got a gravity generator. A very lovely view of the back of my solar panel array, and some more lovely view of my solar panel array. And look, asteroid. Did not plan those windows well, let me tell you. So a lot of my construction has been done with this ugly little stubby guy, but he gets the job done. Unfortunately, I bump into stuff a lot, and I end up having to replace these conveyor tubes. So I wanted to redesign, and I ended up going through a couple of iterations, which resulted in the constructor-destructor model. And I'm actually thinking about going to a Mark IV and extending this armor plating back a little bit further, just to protect my conveyor tubes. But this one's the destructor, and it's got cameras so that we can get a direct view up at the front and at the back for docking purposes. Has 4 medium cargo containers, so it's got plenty of storage for whatever you're doing. Plenty of reactors. It's fast. It's agile. Probably more fast and agile than it ought to be for what it's doing. So I usually end up turning off a couple of I end up turning off a couple of the gyroscopes so that it's a little less agile. Still pretty quick though. And then here is the mole. This was... I had designed a small mining ship without really understanding survival very well. And then I watched some tutorials and I played a little bit and I got a good feel for the way that survival works. And I came up with this design. It creates a very square tunnel. The armor doesn't get too terribly battered. I used heavier armor so that it could take a bit more punishment around the areas where we have thrusters and conveyor tubes. All of the conveyor tubes are really fairly well protected. If you slam into something too hard, of course you're going to bust stuff. I also wanted it to have a projector so that if we had to, in a pinch, we could make repairs in the field by having components with us. Then I do carry a little bit of components on the ship most of the time if I'm going out any distance. If I'm close, I'll ferry them back and forth, not a big deal. So I'd like to show you the rest of the hangar. Now the hangar that I built this as kind of an initial prototype for being able to do a modular hangar for a carrier, but I think that's a little bit further in my future. This is actually a double-walled hangar, which is to say that it has an exterior and an interior set of plating, and I did that for two reasons. One, the hangar is large enough that I wanted it to have its own independent gravity, so it does have its own gravity generator right here, but I also wanted to be able to keep the conveyor system hidden, and as you'll see, we've got conveyors between the walls here. And this actually connects all the way back up into the cargo system, into the cargo containers, which includes an extra large cargo container from a mod, as well as the small cargo container. I don't remember the name of the mod. I'll have to get a list of all of the mods that I really like using together, and I might even end up doing some mod reviews. But I wanted to make sure that regardless of how I had this set up, everything would be connected. I don't like the way I have these connected now. I think I'm gonna split them off and break them into individual tubes that come up to a conveyor box up here that then conveyors over to the system. But that is pretty much the base in a nutshell. I plan on making some expansions. I've got a holographic production area that I'm planning on building up here, which will probably also include a welding arm that's connected to the conveyor system. I haven't figured out exactly how to do that yet, so I'm still trying to decide exactly how I'm going to do this, because I want it to be able to traverse the entirety of the space and do full ship construction up here. And I'd even maybe like to be able to look at doing larger ship construction on this. But I do all of my blueprinting, all of my prototyping, and initial building in a build world that's separate, so that I can get an idea of what components are going to go into a ship, what functionality it's going to have, how big it's actually going to be initially. So I do all of my prototyping outside of the survival game, and then I bring my blueprints in and actually construct them with components from here. So, last thing, and this will be where we tie it off at. So, when you're doing component construction or item construction, I'm sure that people know this. I'm sure lots of people know this. It took me a while to figure it out. If you go into your production queue, two things that I want you to be aware of, or that I'd like to make you aware of. One, you can slave your assemblers together. If they're connected door to door, you can slave them, which means that you only have to run one production queue, and any of your other assemblers will simply help with the job that's being produced at the time. This can vastly speed up production if you're doing a large number of items. Obviously, if you're doing a bunch of different items, it might not necessarily be ideal. You might want to run one separate to turn that functionality on. They actually just go right over here, and it's not obvious that these boxes do anything unless you mouse over them. But you have enable or disable cooperative mode. If you have the arrows there, that means it's in cooperative mode, and it will slave to your primary assembler, to wherever your production queue is. Repeat mode allows you to produce the same thing over and over and over again. So if you want to produce a steel plate, you don't have to produce 100. You can click 1 and with repeat mode on, and it will simply keep producing that many plates over and over and over again. So things to think about on your assemblers. But the other thing I wanted to show you is most of the time you default to the component box. And I found this very frustrating because I'd have to keep going and looking at what I needed and then coming back and going, okay, I want to produce this many of this, of the computer or the construction components or the gravity generator components, and it gets really frustrating and time consuming. What I didn't realize was that you could actually go over here to small blocks, and anything that you wanted to produce, I could go, hey, you know what, I really need a ore detector for my small ship. Click it once, it produces exactly the components that I need to be able to do that. I want to build a programmable block. Produces all of the components I need right on the fly for one programmable block. And of course you can operate this the same way as you operate the other items. You can hold, you can do them in 10s and 100s at a time. And the other thing is you also have large blocks. And the one thing to keep in mind is not all mods are compatible with this, so you may still have to, if you use a lot of mods, do the count and click to produce what you need. But it simplifies production a little bit. You're not guessing at what you need. It reduces overproduction, which I think is really very, very important in survival mode. So that's all I had for today. Next time I am going to, like I said, start a brand spanking new survival world, and we'll kick the whole thing off probably this weekend will be the next time that I actually do a Space Engineers stream. In the meantime, you can probably catch me playing Diablo 3, doing hardcore seasonal, and I am doing that it's probably going to be around 1 o'clock a.m. Mountain Time. So if you want to come and watch me live, that's great. Ask me questions. It's awesome. I'm more than happy to talk to people. If you're interested in getting in touch with me for Space Engineers, please get in contact with me on Steam. Feel free to add me. Just send me a message. Say, hey, want to get in touch about Space Engineers. If you'd like to play, let me know, and I will be more than happy to get together with you. For now, have a great day, and we'll see you guys this week.